Hey Spider Nation, welcome back to another episode of Spider-Man's Tangled WebShow. I'm Jonathan, webmaster of SpiderManFanRave.com, and joining me tonight is James. What's going on, James?
Yeah, I gotta repeat the story. Yeah, I'm having a good week. I didn't expect to have a day off, and I got an extra day off, so that's pretty awesome and cool. It's nice to have 2 days off, and I wasn't expecting that, so that's cool. So besides that, I've just been watching a lot of old Dragon Ball Z, DVDs, and just relaxing and having a good time, and that's about it.
Yes, we apologize. We did not do a podcast last weekend. Unfortunately, I fell very sick, so I was not really able to do a podcast because I was lying in bed desperately trying not to cough up my guts. So, yes, we did not do a show last week. We apologize for that, but we do have a show this week, and we've got a pretty interesting topic to talk about. We don't have any current comics or anything. Clone Conspiracy 5 does not come out until February 15th, so, James, the day after Valentine's Day, we get to enjoy the final issue of Clone Conspiracy. So, just think about that whenever you're on your Valentine's date, James. Think tomorrow it's gonna be Clone Conspiracy time. So however good your Valentine's Day is, it's going to be ruined probably the next day. Because I know you don't
So
like
basically, make sure it's the best sex I ever had with that girl to make sure that it makes up conspiracy.
just do whatever it takes to keep your mind off of the shitstorm that's coming. Because I know you don't like Clone Conspiracy. Um but tonight we are not talking about Clone Saga or anything like that.
See, John's not that lucky when it comes to his love life, so he's just gonna be like the whole night be like dreading clone conspiracy.
That's not necessarily true. I'm not outright denying it, but I'm saying it's not necessarily true. Um, but tonight we're not talking about clones or anything like that. Tonight we're talking about JMS and spider totems because this tonight's topic of choice of Spider-Man-ness is going to be the first arc of the JMS run on Amazing Spider-Man. Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30 through 35, aka Spider-Man Coming Home. To give background as to where Spider-Man is at this point in his history, this is just after Mary Jane was thought to have been blown up in a plane, except she actually wasn't, and she's really alive and just has been held captive for a long time.
That
And
is gonna be a storyline that's gonna be fun for us to do one day. The whole stalker angle. That was the most laziest goddamn writing you will ever see in the history of fiction. That's coming from someone who watched Power Rangers Megaforce.
so Mary Jane is back alive, but she doesn't really want to be
I got
with.
a fun. Hey, before that, John, I got a fun question for you. Do you remember what the name of the stalker was?
Nope, because I didn't care. That was
No. Did you say no?
I don't remember.
Congratulations, John. He had no name. You're correct.
I was gonna say I literally cared that little that
He
I
was
did not
literally
even notice
just
that.
the stalker.
The stalker.
And remember how they dealt with him, John? He literally walked to the sunset and blew himself up.
I literally don't remember any of that. Like I do not
He
remember
was
any
like
of
the
that.
guy with psychic powers who, just by walking by Peter Parker, saw that he was Spider-Man. So he wanted to take Peter Parker's life, so he kidnapped his wife and blew up a plane.
What? I literally don't remember any of this.
And then Peter found Mary Jane, confronted the guy. The guy beat the shit out of Spider-Man because psychic powers somehow make you stronger than Spider-Man, I guess. And then he walked away and blew himself up.
And then of course Mary Jane leaves Peter because she's like, I don't really want to be married to you anymore. So she up and leaves and goes to LA to be an actress. And so Peter, understandably so, is like, well, I thought I was a widow. Now it turns out I'm not a widow, but my wife just left me. Damn. That sucks. Okay.
That
And,
was literally. Oh, hey, the sound's back on my computer. Anyways, that was literally a case of them, like Mackie, just being fuck you to the fans. Hey, you want Peter and MJ back together? Hey, you want MJ alive? You want MJ alive? Be careful what you wish for. She's alive, but she left him. Ha ha.
and so
What?
that
JMS actually wanted to use their relationship? Huh, I don't care. I'm not in the book no more.
And so that's where Spider-Man is. He's separated from his wife. He's living on his own. But now his entire world is about to be turned upside down by the arrival of Ezekiel, and that will lead us into Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30. I'll just give the creative team rundown here. Writer J. Michael Straczynski, pencils John Romita Jr., inks Scott Hanna, colors Dan Kemp and Avalon Studios, letters RS and Comic-Crafts Wes Abbott, and Jimmy Betancourt. Assistant editor John. Wow, I have no idea how to pronounce that last name. You know what? I'm just going to hold that up to the screen and have fun with that last name. And, of course, editor Axel Alonso. I was not even...
The screen was blurry, so I didn't see it. What is it so I could try?
Misigaz?
Show me, not just say it.
I have no idea what that name is.
It's Misagi.
Misigis. I'm going to take James's word for it. I apologize.
That's actually how it's pronounced because I went to high school with somebody with that last name.
I'm going to take James's word for it.
What? You don't believe me that I went to high school with a guy with that last name? You think I'm that much of a bullshitter?
I don't really care, James. I'll be honest. I don't really care.
You should, John. You're giving the guy credit.
Excuse me. I apologize if I'm... When I cough like that, that is residual illness. I'm going to try not to do that very much, but...
And I apologize if I throw a shuriken at you guys.
I apologize if I cough too much. It's just residual illness. It's one of the lesser perks of being human, being subject to disease. But so the issue begins. Amazing Spider-Man number 30.
How you go? That's one of the things that sucks about being a human being. Being subject to disease. What are you, an alien, like studying our race or something like that?
Just for the record, we're going to handle these 6 issues in 3 parts, 2 issues each.
Okay, Mark.
I have no idea what James just said, but...
Mark. You know who Mark is, don't you?
No, I have no idea who that is.
You've never seen reruns of Happy Days?
No, James, I have never seen reruns of that show.
Do you know who Robin Williams is?
Yes, I know who Robin Williams is.
That was his breakout character on that show. Mark, an alien who was studying human life.
All right, but in these first 2 issues of Amazing Spider-Man Coming Home, it starts off with Aunt May calling Peter and basically saying, "Hey, Peter, I know your life sucks right now, but I love you." And Peter's just like, "She's such a good woman. Sometimes I think there isn't a sonar in existence that can sound out the depth of her compassion. But right now, that isn't what I need. What I need is to get away and up and out." And so Peter goes web swinging and basically thinks about how he really wishes he put pockets in his Spider-Man suit. And he's like, "Hey, wouldn't that be cool if I had pockets? Oh wait, when I stick to walls and stuff, my shit might fall out of my pockets. Or what if I had Velcro or a zipper? Oh wait, that might give away my position to villains."
This is one of the best lines ever. "Hey, mommy, what's that splat on the wall?" "Oh, that was Spider-Man. He went to go get some out of a zipper. He must be really lame." I know, he was really lame.
Yeah, he's like, "So what happens when I need to get something out of my pockets and I have to undo the Velcro or the zipper? I'll probably get shot. That's not good. So I won't put pockets in there." And so then basically the idea of him not having pockets makes him so angry that he destroys an abandoned building.
I think it's more of his wife leaving him, but okay, John. It's just the fact that he doesn't want...
I know, James, Velcro. I know. But it's like, he's like, "Man, why am I thinking about not having pockets? Because it's easier than thinking about life." So he destroys an abandoned building because...
That is true. That is true. With all the shit going on in the world right now, my first thought is, you know what? I'm not going to pay attention to politics or, travel bans or any of that bullshit. I'm going to pay attention to my pockets. Wow, I put my wallet in that thing.
Pockets are a really good invention, I will say. Pockets are quite useful, I will say.
You know what'd be cool though? If you could have a monster that fit in your pocket, like a pocket monster. Maybe I'll call it something short, like a Pokemon.
James, I think you just came up with a pretty good money making idea there, James. I wonder
I'll
if
go see
anyone.
if it's copyrighted already.
I was gonna say, I wonder if anyone else has thought of that. All right,
Hey,
so
hey, at my work, I did come up with a great idea that they said I should patent.
I came up with the idea for a peanut butter delivery service that I still maintain would make me a billionaire.
I came up with the idea of, and I'm not gonna, and I'm really feel bad at me saying this out loud because somebody's gonna right away now with the money they're gonna go make this thing a patent, and I'm not gonna get jack shit. But I'll say it anyways, just for the lulz, and you only live once, right? These headphones for when you're playing like your PlayStation or your Xbox or your Nintendo. They're the headphones you can play, wear, and you talk to your friends. But it's also a baby monitor. So if your baby's in the other room and you got to listen to your baby and you also don't want it to hear your game, you put on the headphones and then you can play as loud of Call of Duty, guns going off and blazing in your ears. And the second the baby cries, the game sound shuts off and it's just the baby crying you hear.
Well, you're probably talking to the wrong person for that, seeing as I'm not a parent, but I don't know.
No, but you will see how that would be a good idea. If you know what I mean though? Like if you're a parent but you're also a gamer, you can wear the headphones that way you don't got to worry about the baby hearing the game and it being too loud. But then when they start to cry and they need you, the baby monitor kicks it in the earphone. That way you hear the baby crying and you're not just hearing guns blazing in your headphones.
Take it to Shark Tank, James. Take it to Shark Tank. So Peter walks past the old diner and it was like, man, some of the most important years of my life, this part of town was my home. Annoying as that sometimes was. And then he walks past his old high school and basically sees that it's completely gone to hell because it's like run down, it's covered in graffiti, and kids are still getting bullied. And he tries to break up like this one bullying scene, and this teacher is just like, yeah, that was a bad idea for you to break up that bullying scene. And Peter's like, why? Oh, because that kid's never gonna learn unless he gets the shit kicked out of him enough times.
It is pretty cool. I brought this up in my article, and I'll bring this up later. It's always one of the cool things I liked about this storyline is that Peter is still looking at Midtown High as it's Leave It to Beaver, the 50s, 60s comic book, comic code, kind of high school setting. You know what I mean? And it's like he's being hit with, no, this is how high school really is. Like literally Ultimate Peter gets this, but 616 Peter wouldn't because he's so used to be like, you wait. You mean you don't got to worry about this Flash Thompson calling you puny and you actually got to worry about somebody bringing a gun into school? What the fuck is this shit?
So later that night, Spider-Man's stopping carjacking or a robbery or whatever, and at that moment, some random guy just pops up next to him. And he's like, I suppose you're feeling rather proud of yourself right now. Understandable. I would too, even if it is a waste of a nice night.
I love being a dick.
Even if it is a waste of a nice night and your talent, Peter. And Peter's just thinking to himself, that motherfucker's sticking to the wall just like me.
Oh my God. It's not the reason he didn't tip off my Spider-Man. It's not the reason he has my powers. It's the fact that he said my name. Fuck you.
And so Ezekiel's just like, so yeah, I'm here to talk to you about your powers. And Peter's just like, okay, yeah, you're going to talk to me about my powers? You know why? Because you know my name, you have the same powers as me, and you're just like some weird old guy that showed up out of nowhere. But okay, you can talk to me about my powers, and I'll totally listen to you without questioning anything.
Oh, he does question them.
I know, I'm saying that for dramatic effect, but Peter's just like,
who the fuck are you? What are you talking about? All this stuff.
So Peter's like, yeah, okay. What's going on here, bro? And Ezekiel's just like, so that spider that bit you.
You're a wizard, Harry.
So Ezekiel's like, that spider that bit you. You sure it was the radiation that gave you the powers? And Peter's like, yeah. Listen, dude, I thought about this a lot because, that spider kind of ruined my life. And so I've thought about this a lot. I know what I'm talking about. He's like, do you?
I heard it from God. His name is Stan. He says Excelsior a lot.
He's like, do you really know what's going on there? Because I think maybe the spider might have been trying to give you the powers before the radiation took it down. You ever thought about that? And Peter's like, oh my God, you've just changed my life. That's the most shocking thing I've ever heard. And so Ezekiel's like,
Can you imagine Captain America? Can you imagine, like, in the 80s or Secret Wars, Captain America's like, so Spider-Man, how did you get your powers? Bit by a radioactive spider. Are you sure the spider wasn't just giving you the powers before that? Oh my God, Cap, you completely changed my life.
And so Ezekiel's like, and that's a good start for tonight. Take care of yourself, P. I'll be in touch. And Peter's just like, what? Hold up a second. You can't just screw up my entire worldview and then take off like we just chatted about.
You can't come out and be my Obi-Wan Kenobi and tell me that my father was a Jedi and then say, okay, bye, Luke, I'm going to Alderaan.
It's like, we didn't just have like a conversation about like the Giants versus the Jets. You just completely screwed up my life there, brother. What the heck? What? You can't just take off like that. And so Peter's just like, who are you? Why are you coming to me with all this now? What do you want from me? And Ezekiel's muttering, you know, he's like off in the distance saying, I came now because now is the right time, because you need to understand, because understanding is the only thing that may help you survive what's coming. And of course,
I think he was telepathically through the spider sense telling him this.
And then, of course, obviously, we know that Ezekiel, under his breath, is going, actually, it's coming for me, but I'm diverting it in your direction because I'm a massive douchebag, but that won't be revealed for about 40 issues, so bye!
Plus, I got like a girl the same age as you locked in my basement.
But that won't be revealed for about another, 13 years, so bye!
I'm sorry, I just love that retcon now with Cindy Moon. No, all this Ezekiel stuff is completely undermined by the fact that not only is he a douchebag who's been doing all this shit to try to steal Peter's spider god powers for himself, but he also has a girl kidnapped and locked in his basement the whole time.
Oh, man.
And he never once tells Peter. Oh, yeah, if I die and you die when the Morlon shit's going on, there's a girl in the basement with spider powers, too.
And so we also meet Moreland. We meet Moreland, who's basically like in the bottom of a ship, like because reasons. And yeah, so
because he's eating a guy.
Yeah, so we meet Moreland, and that's the end of issue 30. But then issue 31 begins with Peter at Aunt May's house, and she's serving him eggs and stuff. And Peter's just like,
Excuse me, sorry.
Aunt May is serving Peter eggs, and Peter's thinking about, like, you know, the weird random guy that he met the night before who screwed up his worldview. And Aunt May's like, hey, Peter, you know what you should do? You should become a teacher. And Peter's like, okay. So, later that day, Peter goes to his high school, to his old high school, to apply for the science teacher position. Meanwhile, we learn that Ezekiel is basically the head of his own company, but he's really bad at being the head of his own company because he's not even paying attention to the guy who's telling him like the sales figures or whatever. He's just staring out the window the entire time.
Oh, so you mean he's being like Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, pretty much.
And Tony Stark.
Okay.
And Peter Parker right now at Parker Industries. So basically, you're telling me is Ezekiel is just a businessman in comic books.
Yeah, okay. But Moreland's at a cafe talking about how humans make amazing looking food only to devour it within like 2 seconds. And he's like, do you know why humans are a people of hope? Because you make things like croissants and pastry in particular. You make something of astonishing beauty, carefully decorated, fragile, lovely, knowing that the person who receives it will appreciate that beauty for only about 2 seconds before devouring it. In that, we have something in common. Okay, that's weird. And so then
I get the metaphor, but as somebody who went to culinary school and they beat you over the head with make sure your food looks good, you can go fuck yourself, Morlon. I had to study that shit to make my food look that good. So fuck you.
So then Peter's spider sense goes off. He senses Moreland, and he's like, "Oh my god, that was the worst spider sense I've ever had." Screw that time it went off. In the Roger Stern Hobgoblin run when he was warning me of the Beyonder in his home world. Screw that. That wasn't the worst it's ever been. Or screw the time.
Like JMS even knew what the Beyonder was.
Yeah, JMS didn't give a shit. So Peter's like, "Oh man, what could have set off my spider sense that badly?" He's like, I'll just shoot a web and leap out there and get going on my way. And then he just like crawls around the corner timidly, like he's hiding from Moreland. And so
which is good. It's that whole like animal thing going on.
So then Peter goes to the school to apply for the job, and all of a sudden his spider sense goes off, and he looks in the doorway, and there's a guy with a gun. And Peter's like, "Oh shit! I need to protect the students." So he gets them all into a classroom, and he's just like, "This is not good." And then he sees the kid from the other day that he protected from bullies, and he's like, "I could save more than lives here today." So he tells the kid who happens to be a science nerd to basically mix some chemicals together and throw them into the air vent so that Peter can change to Spider-Man without anybody seeing him. He changes to Spider-Man, takes the guy down, and he sees that it was a kid who was being bullied really badly and just went insane. And it was just that kind of a story.
Went insane. That is completely a dick thing to say shot about anybody who ever experienced that thing in a school. Oh, the kid just went insane like a mad scientist.
Well, I mean, like, I don't know what you want me to say, but it's like the douchebag went insane and brought a gun and tried to kill people. Like, I gotta be honest, James, I don't think people who do that are really in their right minds. I
agree about that, but just to say he went insane in a comic book, it makes it sound like he's just like, wearing a rhino costume and bashing walls.
Well, the audience understood what I meant. I don't know, but Peter's like, "Man, that was not good." And the other teacher was like, "Yeah, that really wasn't good, was it?" "Yeah. So who are you again?" "Oh, I'm Peter Parker. I'm the new science teacher." Dun,
Did you get the job yet? No. Are you qualified? No. Are you going to show up to classes at all? No. Well, you're aboard. Thank you. Welcome aboard, Mr. Parker.
And that's the first two issues. So, James, tell us, what did you think of Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 30 and 31?
They're great issues. I really like them. The art, like I brought up when I did these articles about these issues, is beautiful. You could tell that Romita Jr. was just waiting for a writer like JMS to come on the book, because the artwork, like I heard at this time, you hear a lot of it, how it looks like it's cinematic, and it really does. Like when you look at these panels, they tell a story, each one, without even the thought balloons. It's just really, the artwork is like always top notch. The inks, the artwork by Romita Jr. is unbelievable. JMS, I like this because you're right off the bat, he's like, forget everything you read before with Mackie and Bird. We're keeping the Mary Jane subplot because we just can't have her, magically there now. I got to actually build up towards that. But I'm going to do that in a realistic, actual, cool, and awesome way. Aunt May is written confidently to the point that if you go back on, the Crawl Space or Spider Fan or any Spider-Man website or comic book review site, and you go to the reviews when these issues were coming out, look them up. Because so many people are like, they're writing Aunt May out of character. She's actually competent and being smart. Like the complaint was that she's out of character because she's actually being written well. That's out of character for Aunt May. It's scaring us. And you can tell that because she is. She's not just, the worried old Aunt May. Like, "Oh, Peter, you're lost in thought. You got a brain tumor?" Like something like the old Aunt May would jump to. She's like, "Peter, I know what's going on. You're at a crossroads of your life. You're moving to a new apartment. Your wife left you, all this stuff. Maybe, the school needs a good teacher, and you got a science degree. And I'm sure you being a former student there that, got your science degree in college because of your scholarship you got at that high school. I think that's going to help you." So I like that. And I just love the whole parallels in this comic, like I pointed this out earlier, and I brought this up in the article. Peter mindset every time he's in that high school is still it's 1962. It's Leave It to Beaver. It's that stereotypical 60s high school setting where it's the worst thing he has to worry about is Splash Thompson calling him Puny Parker and pushing him down or giving him a wet willy. Now it's like he helps the kid to something that he never got from anybody. And he's like, well, I'm actually doing my part. I never had anybody to help me. Yeah, but now they're gonna pick on him even worse now because he's the teacher's pet. You made it worse for him. It's like in real life. Like, reason why kids, when you saw somebody bully, the reason why you never stood up and said, hey, stop that, because you knew they would come at you. Or it would just come back 10 times worse as soon as the teacher's gone. And Peter is pretty much just hit with the so-called fact that it's not 1962 anymore. And I love that about this issue. I mean, literally, that scene with the kid with the gun is one of the most powerful moments. Because any other time Peter was in Midtown High before this and shit like this went down, it was Sandman wanting a fucking diploma and the living brain going haywire. So Peter is going into the mindset that this is still a supervillain doing the shit at the high school. And then he's hit with reality that, no, it's Columbine. It's a kid who brought a gun to school to get his bullies. And it's really powerful. And Peter's reaction is he's like hit with that shock. And I love the artwork too when he like looks at the guy and it's almost like Amazing Fantasy 15 when he realizes it's the burglar. That same kind of look Peter has when he realizes it's just a kid. It literally could have been him. Because if you go back and read those old Dick Kill issues, he's constantly saying stuff like, I'll show them. They make fun of Puny Parker. I'll show them one day. I'll make them pay. He's literally relating to this kid. He's relating to the other kid. And I like that about this. My only real complaint, though, in this whole issue, in these two issues, is the continuity error. And John knows what I'm talking about. The diner. Remember how Peter, back in those Ditko issues, went with school with Harry Osborn and Gwen Stacy, and they all went to a diner and hanged out together?
James, I don't remember that.
Well, good, because it didn't happen until this fucking issue.
Oh my god. It's just like...
And about the Ezekiel stuff, it's just like hindsight being 2020. It's really hard to watch these scenes because Ezekiel is now one of those really weird character where JMS clearly wrote it as, he's really right though. It's the truth. I'm serious. Peter got his power from a spider god. I changed the origin. It's cool and more better than a radioactive spider. It's more modern. And every other person like Stan Slott or any other writer in Marvel's like, yeah, you keep telling yourself that. We're just going to keep it going with the radioactive spider explanation. Is that okay? Okay, bye. And so it's a little weird thing where Ezekiel's like, I'm telling you the truth, Peter. You got what came first? Is it the egg or the chicken? The spider or the spider powers? And it's like, now when you watch it, it's all like boring. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's confusing.
All right, James, but...
Ezekiel, like I even brought this up in the article, I do like the pipe bomb that he drops on Peter with that. How he's like, oh my god, I never actually thought that, and I'm in a universe where Thor's a fucking superhero, and there's other like Doctor Strange. When did I ever assume that maybe something like that could happen to me? I mean, we both were created by Ditko. And I love that, because like I brought up in the article, and I brought this up on this podcast, it's very much similar to what happened in Star Wars. Ezekiel's the Obi-Wan Kenobi coming in, who's going to mentor the Luke Skywalker, and like, you're a Jedi. It's kind of like that. He's literally hit with, he thought his life was one thing. Luke Skywalker was boring farm boy on a desert planet. Peter, it's, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And then literally here's this old wise guy who's similar to you and is going to mentor you because of that. And he hits you with like this pipe bomb that completely changes your worldview and you start to second guess everything you ever known as a lie. And I think that's really well handled here.
All right, James. So do you give these two issues thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down?
I'm giving it one thumbs up because I got to hold my phone with my other hand. So it's two, but I'm only putting up one.
Okay, I agree with James. I really do like these issues. I think it's a really good start for JMS. He really establishes his tone and the way he wants to handle this world. He really establishes that right off the bat. You get a good sense of his vision for the character. I think he really does I think I'm sure I've mentioned this before. I really like his voice for Spider-Man. I think he really understands what makes the character tick. I think he understands how the character works. The intro
And he
for
handles them realistic. Like he handles them as real humans would handle this situation.
yeah, he writes him as a real guy, which of course we're always saying Spider-Man's the relatable everyday everyman superhero. And so I think JMS really kind of handles it from that perspective, and I applaud JMS for that. The intro for Ezekiel, I will say that this is not as trippy as it gets. Though when James brought it up, it's like the idea that he has silk in another basement area layer of that building, and of course I brought up the whole book of Ezekiel thing. It's just like reading this now with everything that happens later. It's just
Bullshit.
It's so
Not
weird.
not stories bullshit. It's that he's bullshit.
Yeah, it's just like it adds a whole new layer to this story. The artwork by Romita Jr., I'll echo James's sentiments on that. Fantastic, absolutely gorgeous. One of the best Spider-Man artists out there. Especially, just a lot of his actual drawing of Spider-Man himself, I think is absolutely gorgeous, and I think almost era defining. Like whenever I think of Spider-Man from this era, I think of JR.
Yeah. Another thing too, and I think a lot of it has to do with the inking, because the Romita Jr. stuff later, like when you go to Brandon Day and he would have like special guest star, for a big arc, how they would have JR come in for it, and it just doesn't have that same pop. You know what I mean? Because I think it's like a different inker and colorist than it is here.
Yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about. This particular team, is definitely like the definitive Spider-Man for this era. And the other thing is, I love the idea of Peter becoming a teacher. I think I've mentioned this before on the podcast. I think I think it's a good role for him, a good occupation for Peter Parker to take up. I think obviously it doesn't work practically with him being Spider-Man, but I think Peter Parker has a lot of room to grow as a character in the idea of him becoming a teacher, serving the younger generation, trying to give them the same shot that that he had as at that age. So I think that's a really good idea for Peter Parker as a character.
I agree, 100%. Like I mentioned this before, this is realistic character development for Peter Parker on like Parker Industries.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. This is something that was realistic for Peter Parker, the everyman, to become. And another reason why I like it is Romita Jr. Not Romita Jr. JMS doesn't really tap into this, but other satellite writers like Paul Jenkins and Peter David and stuff like that, they tap into this, which is the high school aspect. You can literally redo that now, but instead of it being Peter, the nerdy student going to high school, you literally have Flash as the gym teacher giving him a hard time now, and you got different teachers kind of be like, where's Parker? He ran off on his students again. What a loser. You know what I mean? Though, like the high school, it's like the high school never ends. He's back in high school. He's in that world, but now it's the adults and the teachers and that kind of dynamic going on with the students, and they're kind of handling the other teenage drama that you can bring now back into the book with this.
Yeah, so I really like that particular angle of these two issues. Other than that, I got nothing else to say on these two issues. Really good. Thumbs up for me on both of them. Really solid start for JMS's run. Now, James, here's where the fun begins. Amazing Spider-Man 32 and 33. Oh boy. Let's talk about these two issues. Especially 32. That's the trippy one. 32 is the one where it's like, I'll steal a Jon Stewart phrase. This is from Jon Stewart. I didn't make it up. Let's take a trip to Bullshit Mountain, because oh my god. All right, James, what happens in Amazing Spider-Man 32 and 33?
It begins with a carjacking. Some guy with a bunch of tattoos is like still in a car while a crying chick is freaking out because she's his hostage, and it's he's all like freaking out, telling her to shut up or he's gonna shoot her, and she starts like just screaming bloody murder as this psychopath is gonna murder her over a car, and then all of a sudden the door gets ripped off, and then the guy gets webbed up, and then Spider-Man gets in the car, and he goes, "Hey, you can call me Spider-Man, you can call me Friendly Neighborhood, Web Swinger, Webhead, but don't ever call me late for dinner." Oh wait, wrong continuity.
That's an Amazing Spider-Man 2 reference for people who don't know.
But it's kind of similar here as Peter going, "Hey, you can I like drop you off downtown or something? I'll be your taxi driver in your own stolen car." And then she freaks the fuck out even more because she's like, "Well, okay, it was one thing when a regular guy puts a gun in my head. Now that fucking Menace Spider-Man is talking about drop me off downtown and probably running off in my car." So the guy is trying to run away, and then Spider-Man goes like all Batman on him, like, "Hey, punk, where are the other drugs?" And as he's trying to scare the guy, he's rubbing him up so that way the cops can find him, and he, in a really cool moment, like webs up the word "loser" on the webbing, over the guy, and that is classic Spider-Man. Like the guy's like freaking out that Spider-Man's gonna murder him here on this web, and it turns out the worst thing he could do is just like loser in the web. I love that. That's classic Spider-Man. So we go to Peter's first day in the classroom, and he's teaching them science shit that I don't understand because I still don't know how I passed high school science. So me seeing somebody teach high school science in the comic book is just like all like Charlie Brown to me.
Basically, what he's saying is that math is everywhere, and we are math in everything. That's what he's saying.
Okay, I'll go with that. Well, basically, you see Joey from the previous issue, a girl getting passed a note from a boy she likes, and kids blowing bubbles and not really paying attention. The bell rings, they leave. That kind of, normal high school stuff. Peter goes to leave. Another teacher comes in. It's the principal. He starts saying, "Hey, Peter, I want you to meet with me. We're going to talk. We got an investor who's giving us a lot of money, and he's a friend of yours." And Peter's like, "Okay, anybody who knows me who has a lot of money is probably an Osborn, so that's not a good thing." But it turns out to be Ezekiel, so that ends up being even double not a good thing because he kidnapped a girl and has her in his basement. I'm never going to live that down with Ezekiel ever again. And it's not even Jameis's fault. It's the bad thing.
It's a later writer, like 15 years
Dan
down
Slott's
the road.
fault. It's Dan Slott's fault, but it's still a sit on this issue because in continuity with a retcon, that happened. She's there. So, yeah, Ezekiel's all there. He's like, "Yeah, I gave money to your school, Peter. Hey, let's go have pizza." And Peter's like, "Damn it, I love pizza. Let's go." Random stranger who completely mind-fucked me last night.
I apologize.
So they start talking, and then Ezekiel's doing more of that whole kind of like Chinese fortune cookie, or you know what I mean, that half-truth bullshit where Peter asks him a question, and his answer was like 4 or 5 different questions. And Peter's playing around with a spider because JMS again has to push super surreal how he's connected to spiders and all this shit. And then he starts going on about Adam and Eve and Egyptians and the American flag and mythology and how it's all connected. John's already getting a headache.
Bullshit mountain.
As he's starting to go over the totem, and then he starts going, Thor fights other gods. X-Men fight other mutants. Captain America fights evil patriots. And you got animal villains. What about the Green Goblin? Animal villains.
What about Electro?
Animal villains. What about Shocker? Animal villains.
What about the Crime Master?
Animal villains.
What about Tombstone?
What about Judas Traveler? Hey, don't talk about my brother like that.
What about Ben Reilly?
What about him?
What about? Let's see. I'm trying to think of more.
Ben Reilly's a spider, so that counts, John.
Damn. I'm trying to think of more.
But anyways, yeah, like he's bullshitting. Like he brings up like at one point there's a lot of animal themed villains that Spider-Man fights, like the Vulture, Doc Ock, Rhino, Scorpion, Lizard, stuff like that. But he like neglectfully ignores the fact that the the X-Men don't just fight mutants; they also fight animal-themed villains. Granted, they're all mutants, but still. And Thor has fought animal-themed villains, and Captain America has fought animal-themed villains, and the Fantastic Four have fought animal-themed villains. Peter has fought evil patriots before. Peter has fought evil mutants before. Peter has fought gods before. They're not connected in that kind of way. It's called, when they wrote these stories, it was easy for Thor to fight other gods and making up commie villains that they were for his first year in the books.
It's like, what about Sandman? What about the Tinkerer? What about Mysterio?
If all his villains were animal themed, I would give that to you. But what his biggest villain is the fucking Green Goblin. And last time I checked, goblins aren't animals. You lose all 3 points.
Goblins are demons. It's like the Green Goblin, Mysterio.
Oh, granted, Norman Osborn can be wild like an animal, but he's not an animal-themed villain.
He can potty like an animal, but he sure ain't one.
Well, pretty much they go for more of the Toem stuff, and Ezekiel goes over his backstory in that Mayan temple that we saw a few weeks ago when we reviewed his last issue. And you see the stabbing again from that Mayan guy as the blood's going on, and Ezekiel's going over this shit because it's foreshadowing. But he's all like, but totally cool, Peter. I'm not going to backstab you or have a girl hidden in my room. And so he starts talking, and he starts talking about how Morlan's coming, and he's going to want to eat your soul, and all that stuff because he's a vampire guy, but that's a retcon later on. And Ezekiel, and then as that's going on, we see Morlan being like Android 18 from Dragon Ball Z, going clothes shopping while she's killing people. And then they're still eating the pizza, and Morlan's still going for this bullshit. He tips the guy who just happens to look like teenage Peter Parker, like a big tip, and he tips like the taxi driver a big tip because JMS needs to remind you again that this guy has a lot of money. That's all it is. It's reminding you he has a lot of money. And where Peter Parker's power and responsibility, Ezekiel's power and a lot of fun. That's basically it. He's power and no responsibility. And he basically goes over that with Peter. He goes, why didn't you just do what I did? Why didn't you just whore yourself out with your powers and become rich? And then Peter's like, because my Uncle Ben got shot, first I did that, I became a professional wrestler, but then I let a burglar get away, and then my uncle got shot and power responsibility, boom, there you go. The origin again, but you know what I mean. And he goes over that, and Ezekiel's showing him like his super danger room. He's like, yep, this is my office, but it's also got this super cool like panic room where you'll be totally safe when Morlan shows up. You don't got to worry about anything bad ever happening to you. It's totally just like the I locked up that teenage girl and blah, blah, blah.
I was gonna say what he should say is I totally don't have another one of these 10 floors down with someone else already locked up in it.
Here's the thing. I know it's a retcon and JMS wasn't thinking about this, but in the context, if Morlan was a real guy, why did he build 2 separate rooms? Why didn't he just tell Peter about Sydney? And I repeat, JMS didn't come up with this. I know that's the actual real world explanation. But in a context of the Marvel Universe, this was a real life thing. Why wouldn't he just put him in the room with her?
I don't know.
That way, if shit goes down worse, they both can team up on Morlan. 2 against 1 might have gave them the advantage. Or 3 against 1 if you count Ezekiel.
Because
Ezekiel's a dumbass. Again, I will repeat, I know if anybody's going to comment this, that JMS didn't come up with Cindy Moon. I get that. I'm saying, though, in the context of the retcon, this doesn't make sense. This ain't JMS's fault. That's the fault of a future writer, Dan Slott. So, yeah, Morlan's doing shit, and he does this spider sense thing again where he blows up a building this time, and Peter's watching TV. He's like, I had a nice day of class. Some guy again mentally mind-fucked me with bullshit over pizza. But I'm just going to sit down, relax, and watch the finale of Friends. I wonder if Ross and Rachel are going to end up together. News just in, shit's going down in New York. fuck my life, he web swings out of there.
I do this in the name of love.
I think he's watching like the Mets game, and then like it breaks into like the news feed about what's going on. He web swings. He starts, being Spider-Man. He starts saving people. That super spider sense goes off again, and then he gets punched so hard he goes flying, and it's Morlon standing over him.
And remember, James, no one's ever hit him that hard before. No one.
Oh, I just wanted to pass over that bullshit of a line. Because, this douchebag, this wannabe Twilight villain, he's so much stronger than, like, the Hulk or the Beyonder or people like that. Yeah, or Galactus. Yeah, this douchebag Twilight wannabe.
So moving on.
We find out the clone. Again, a retcon from a later writer, but he's basically just another clone battle.
So moving on to Amazing Spider-Man Volume 2, number 33.
So pretty much shit happens. In that they start fighting. Morlon is like literally like that overpowered guy. Like back to the Dragon Ball Z analogy, he's Frieza and it's Spider-Man's Krillin. No matter what he does to this guy, punching him, everything, Morlon just like keeps it going through. He's not even fazed by it, and he's all like, "Bitch, I'm gonna eat you now." And Peter's like, "No, you're not." He's like, "Yes, I am. See my red eyes? That's how you know I'm a demon. I'm gonna fucking eat you now." We get this really cool panel of a splash page where like there's hundreds of them just going at it. Different shots of Spider-Man going at Ezekiel's throat, but Ezekiel chokes him. Peter punches him, but Ezekiel blocks it. Pretty much, it's a montage of Ezekiel beating the fuck out of Spider-Man. So they just keep on fighting. Peter starts to web swing away, but everywhere he just turns, Morlon's like there already. Like literally, he can't get away. He's trying to save people because they're collateral damage. His cars and buildings are falling apart because of this. And he's trying to save these people, but every time he gets close to saving somebody, Morlon does more bullshit. They hurt him, like doing super punches to the gut and all this shit. And Peter's like the Terminator. No matter where Peter goes, this unstoppable killing machine is literally following him. He can't get away. He even slips into his civilian clothes. He doesn't know I'm Peter Parker. He just walk away, and sure enough, he turns the corner, and oh shit, he's like literally standing right there. He's like, "What part of mystical vampire who senses you don't you understand?" So he punches Spider-Man through a bar. They continue the fight. Peter puts back on the suit. They continue fighting. Morlon sets a match to blow up the building, and again, Spider-Man's like, he blew himself up, idiot. But again, the Terminator analogy happens as dun, 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 as a naked Morlon walks out with red glowing eyes, and then his butler guy, I can't remember his name.
Dex.
Oh yeah, Dexter, who is always like, "Kill me." He's like, "So you're gonna kill me now?" "No, shut up. My God, just commit suicide." So Peter finally shows up at Ezekiel's like super secret, place where he's totally not hiding a girl. And he's like, "Okay, I'm ready to hide in the same place where you're totally not hiding a girl." And Ezekiel's like, "No, once he smells you, he's gonna come after you. Literally, I hide you here, and he already knows where you're at. Because once he senses you, he's got your scent. He's like Puma, only an even more lame carrier."
All right, James. I'll go first with my thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 32 and 33. 32. Let's start with that. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Spider-Man animal villains come after Spider-Man because they have a subconscious instinct that they don't know about, because they're jealous that Spider-Man is the quote-unquote real deal and they're just pretenders.
That would make sense if they literally were their only reason to exist was to kill Spider-Man. They all only want to kill Spider-Man because he stopped them from robbing the same bank 50 fucking times.
That is the most BS explanation I think I've ever heard in my life. And remember, I sat through that Mark Millar issue where he said that all supervillains are just corporate puppets made to protect quarterly profits or whatever. I sat through Mark Millar's politics.
Okay, John. Okay, John. Which one's the more bullshit explanation for Spider-Man supervillains? Corporate, conservative Donald Trump, conspiracy theory, or what Ezekiel's saying right now?
I literally don't know. Like,
because they're literally one of them is telling the truth because their stories are both in continuity somehow. One of them is telling the truth. Either it's Spider God reasonings or evil conspiracy theory reasoning.
Oh my God! Do I have to pick
one?
Or
it couldn't just be that. Or it couldn't just be Stan Lee created a new villain to rob a bank, and Spider-Man had to stop that guy.
Oh my God! It's just like it's so off the wall. It's so weird.
Rick Connors became the Lizard and completely just terrorized fucking Florida because he's constantly wanted to kill Spider-Man. Not any other animal-themed supervillain in comic book history, specifically Spider-Man. A character who you would have never met if Peter didn't go with Jonah to Florida.
All right. I will say it's a good start to the Spidey-Moreland fight. I like how Spider-Man is having to push himself and persevere, even though Moreland is supposedly unstoppable. I like that. The artwork is still good. It's just that weird villain retcon shit. I give these 2 issues a thumbs up, but 32 is because it's so awful, it's good. Because it's just like, I can read it and laugh my butt off. That's the thing about it. It's just like, okay, JMS, okay, sure, we'll go with that. Even though it's completely untrue, but I give it a thumbs up. It's so awful, it's good. 33 is actually a good issue, but 32 is just weird. So James, thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man 32, 33?
Just to continue on with what you were saying, my point of view is basically with hindsight, of reading every Morlan story and Ezekiel's story and knowing where this goes. And what I brought up in the final Ezekiel story with the whole is it science or is it religion, thing, and I brought up my point of view. Like I said, I just see Ezekiel as he did the spider tome stuff, and it is a case of Sidney and Peter were just bitten by a radioactive spider in an accident, and he just used them as like a scapegoat to get them into his world, kind of like lure them into his web. So everything he's saying here, I just take as he's bullshitting to get Peter to join his side. Like, he'll trust me if I point out the fact that a couple of his villains are animal themed. So if you look at it from that point of view, that Ezekiel's purposely bullshitting to get Peter to trust him, then I don't mind it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, I see what you're saying there, definitely. It's like, I've always seen Ezekiel as that guy who's just, like, completely full of shit, like, the entire time.
So, yeah, you got that going on, and that's my feelings towards that subplot. But the rest of that issue is pretty good handled, You do run into the problem of this era of comics that still kind of continues, that whole Bendis ready for the trade thing, where it's like, let's do a whole issue where it's just Spider-Man and a guy talking over pizza and something that before could have been handled in, like, 1 or 2 pages. You know what I mean, though? Like, just literally that whole conversation over the pizza could have been, shorter.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of, and it's like literally it takes up that whole issue. And the Ezekiel and the Ezekiel fight, the Morlan fight is kind of that too. Literally, it was hard for me to recap that when I went over it on the website and here, because it's literally like can be summed up in 1 page, that whole issue, and they fight.
And Peter gets knocked down, and he gets back up again, and he gets knocked down again, and he gets back up.
You're never going to keep him down. Literally, I could have just put the Chumbawamba song lyrics on there, and that would be your review for that issue. I know other stuff happens, like the whole fact that Peter finds out that not only because Morlan now got his scent, that not only can he not hide it in his secret identity, but also he can't go to the panic room. That's totally not hiding a girl. But that stuff happens too. But it's literally just and they're fighting. You know what I mean? It's like the whole issue is like we had no action in the first 3 issues, kind of. So here's a whole issue that's just the fight scene. But besides that, they're really good, and I would give this a thumbs up.
All right. Excuse me, just a second. Sorry, had to get water. Amazing Spider-Man 34 and 35, the final 2 issues of this story arc. Basically, we start off where we left the last issue. Spider-Man is like, oh shit, I can't hide in the super secret panic room that I'm totally alone in and that there's no one else here. There's totally no one else here. But Spider-Man can't, he's like, he can't hide in the super secret panic room. So he's like, so Ezekiel, can you help me fight this guy? No. Why not? Because it's your problem, not mine. Screw you. And so Peter swings away. He goes to fight Moreland again. He hits Moreland with like literally half a web cartridge worth of webbing. It doesn't even stop him. Peter steals money from a fake blind guy, like a guy who's faking blindness to get money. Peter steals money from him because, why the hell not? You know, it's like the guy's faking being blind, so it's like he doesn't deserve that money in the first place. He calls in sick to his job. He goes to fight Moreland some more. He gets his ass kicked, so he web swings away. Ezekiel's looking out the window at the whole thing, and he's just like, he's not even paying attention to his meeting. He's just looking out the window. Peter calls Mary Jane. She doesn't pick up, so he hangs up. And then he calls Aunt May, tells her he loves her, all that stuff. And then Moreland shows back up again. He and Peter fight some more. Then Ezekiel shows up, and he manages to give Moreland a bloody nose. And they both team up on Moreland, and Moreland supposedly kills Ezekiel and then goes away. Peter dives into the water to try to save him, but he can't find him. But then Peter looks at the ground, sees Moreland's blood. He rips that part of the pier up, and he takes it home and studies it, and he gets an idea. So he goes to a nuclear reactor and kind of fakes a nuclear meltdown, which leads into 35, which is the final issue, where Moreland shows up at the nuclear reactor, and Peter basically injects himself with radiation. Like he takes a second dose of radiation after the first dose, which was when he got bitten by the spider, and Moreland tries to feed on him, and he's repulsed by it because of the radiation. And Peter's just like, yeah, bitch, I'm not pure. You've been saying I'm pure this whole time? Nope, I'm full of radiation. So Peter basically beats the crap out of him now that Moreland's been weakened. And before Peter can decide whether or not he wants to kill the guy, Moreland's servant Dex comes out and shoots Moreland dead. So that's that problem solved. And so Dex runs.
It's true, but I just love that. Oh, just how anticlimactic it is.
It's like, well, that's that dealt with. It's like, but so Dex runs away. Peter goes after him, and Dex is like, he hurt me a lot. And Peter's just like,
he hate me.
Peter's just like, Peter just basically pulls on Matt Murdock. He's like, get out of my city. And so Dex is like, okay. And then he starts singing a song from Wicked. And then Peter like just collapses on a rooftop.
What?
Yeah, Dex starts singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead." That's from Wicked.
That's not from Wicked. That's from the Wizard of Oz.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry. They're both W's.
You credited the prequel for something the original did.
I'm sorry.
That's like if somebody said, "Luke, I am your father," and you go like, "Wow, that reminds me of Star Wars: The Phantom Menace."
I'm sorry. But so yeah, Peter collapses on a rooftop, and he basically is like, "God, the fuck, bro? Like, what was that about? Can we not do that again?" And so then he goes to Ezekiel's office building to tell them that their boss is dead. And he realizes, oh, wait, Ezekiel's not dead. Cool. And then he basically, he's thinking about how great life is and how happy he is to be alive, and he goes home to go to sleep, and Aunt May shows up to get Peter's laundry or whatever, and she comes in and she sees the torn up Spider-Man costume on the floor, and she sees Peter bandaged on his bed sleeping, and she's like, holy shit, and that's how the issue ends. So, James, what'd you think of Amazing Spider-Man 34 and 35?
They're really good, like really good comics. I liked the issue before, it was really handled well again with this whole thing. I like, again, you're getting, like I said, that now it's no longer just, oh, I gotta pretend like I called off sick from school. Oh, people are gonna wonder why Nerdy Parker, is not there. It's now, literally, this is my second day on the job, and I'm already calling in because of Spider-Man shit. It's they're retackling that, but it's what's old is new again kind of thing, because it's now the twist of him being a teacher. And it's that different thing with just, not him calling off sick from school, to fight a supervillain. It's him doing that, but now it's like, I hope I don't lose my job because it's literally my second day and I'm calling off already. I'm not a kid anymore. They're not going to just say, okay, I guess you just didn't take the test then. You got an F on something, Parker. It's literally, I can lose my job, and I hope I don't fuck up my dream job. That's really handled well. This whole thing is just handled well. Like I said, that was really good. The rest, I like it. Joey's kind of upset, when he's all excited to go to class because he actually has a teacher who gives a shit about him, Peter Parker, and he overhears, that Peter's keep calling in, and he's like, here we go again, another teacher leaving. No hope kind of thing, and I like that, how that's handled. The rest of that issue is also really handled really well, and I really enjoy it. Like the art's amazing, and Ezekiel's death. Literally, when I first read this, I had the trade because I came in literally right after the final Ezekiel storyline happened. So all the Ezekiel stuff, I had to go back and read in the trades. And knowing in hindsight already about the character, it was like, when you read this, it's kind of back. It's like, is Ezekiel dead? No. And so that happens. About the final issue, it's really weird because in some ways it's almost like JMS is saying, yeah, it's radioactivity because Peter's able to survive all that shit, and say, well, I'm on pure because I got bitten by radioactive blood and shit like that, and so I'm not pure and you're gonna die from poison somehow. And you got the most anticlimactic ending to a villain ever, and it's one of the reasons why Morlun is referred to as Morlun by a lot of people I know, and why he's a kind of a shitty villain. Because he's super overpowered, so how do you deal with him? Oh, his henchman just shoots him. The guy is strong enough to survive Spider-Man, but just shooting him with a gun does the trick.
Peter's like, man, why didn't I think of that?
I repeat, the guy goes through brick walls and can survive explosions, but a simple gun kills him. And don't say, oh, he comes back so it didn't kill him. Those are clones of him. This Ezekiel body is dead.
All right, James, but any other thoughts? And you give these issues a thumbs up, sideways, or down?
The ending, I like the ending plot twist of, Aunt May finding that's an iconic shot of Peter beaten and broken, bloodied, bandaged up, and Aunt May coming in holding the ripped up Spider-Man suit. And it's kind of like he literally has no way to talk his way out of this kind of thing. Because it's not just, oh, you found a Spider-Man costume. Oh, Aunt May, it's from Halloween last year. I dressed up as him. I forgot I even had that costume, This is literally like you're beaten up, you're bandaged, you're completely destroyed, Peter. And the suit's also destroyed. And Spider-Man just went for the worst battle of his life, kind of there's no way he can talk his way out of it. And I like that, how that's handled. It's really good, and thumbs up both of these issues.
All right, I agree with James. I really like both of these issues as well. Again, like I brought up the last time, Spider-Man having to persevere through all of this and push his way through and really show how strong his willpower is and everything. I really like all of that. I think that's really good for the character. I like how Peter uses his scientific skills to take down Moreland, and I also love how it's the idea of the radiation that takes down Moreland. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a good ending to the fight. I thought that was again showing the ingenuity of the character, but also just a good twist on the whole thing. The cliffhanger, of course, with Aunt May finding out the secret is a classic Spider-Man storyline that is one of the best Aunt May stories. Well, probably the best Aunt May story to ever be written. So that's all really good. And yeah, I mean that's really all I can say. It's the artwork continues to be top notch, and I give these issues a thumbs up. It's really really strong writing, and really really good Spider-Man. So that's going to do it for our review section of this episode. That's also going to do it for this episode of the podcast. We don't really have anything else to talk about. Next week is Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 4, so we'll talk about that, and we'll also probably hit up another classic storyline. And then in 2 weeks, we of course have the Clone Conspiracy finale. So be on the lookout for those discussions. But other than that, James, any final words for the listeners before we sign off?
Shout outs. The only thing I could really think about is the Super Bowl, and I hope the Falcons win because I'm not really a Patriots fan. I hope the Falcons win the Super Bowl. Shout out to Randy Orton for winning the Royal Rumble last week, even though that bullshit finish they almost had really pissed almost me and every wrestling fan off. It's the fact that Roman Reigns is number 30, you fucking assholes. But and Seth Rollins, I hope your injury is not that bad and we don't miss your Mania match with Triple H, because that really sucks with that storyline finally getting in gear and that it might be fucked up by a guy legitimately re-injuring himself. So yeah, that's going on. So we'll see Roman. And another shout out, as a lot of you know, I went to anime club when I was in school. I'm a huge anime fan. I like Death Note and Bleach and stuff like that. I grew up with Pokemon in the 90s. And but my all-time favorite anime is the Dragon Ball series, and it's been airing for a few weeks. Well, you can already watch it on Crunchyroll subbed, and I've been watching it subbed. But if you're not really a subtitle fan, Adult Swim, the dub with the Funimation cast that you probably remember when you were a kid, voicing Goku and Vegeta, watch it. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's a huge Dragon Ball fan. I recommend it to anybody, and that's about it for shout-outs.
My shoutouts this week, Marvel, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, JMS, JR, thank you for Spider-Man, thank you for the comics we reviewed this week. Other shoutouts, Avengers, Earth's Mightiest Heroes, I finished watching that cartoon. That's really good. Highly recommend it if you haven't watched it. I just watched it for the first time and it was really good. Other shoutouts, I recently got on DVD the complete series of Transformers Animated, and I'm making my way through that.
That's the original series?
No, it's another one that came out about a decade ago. It's kind of it takes cues from various points in Transformers history. It's a little bit of the original cartoon, a little bit of the first live action movie, a little bit of the Unicron trilogy. But it's also its own thing. So
Did you just say the Unicorn trilogy?
Unicron trilogy, like Transformers Armada and Transformers Energon.
Oh.
But it's a pretty well.
If you're a Transformer fan, remember this is the guy who brags about Power Rangers on the podcast, so I have no room to talk. But Unicorn trilogy or Unicron trilogy or whatever you said, I do not know what that is, so I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's a pretty well liked Transformers cartoon. It's pretty well received. It only had a short run. It was only like 42 episodes, but it's pretty good. If you like, if you're just a Transformers fan, I'd recommend checking it out. It's worth checking out. I'm halfway through season 1 right now. I watched it, when it was coming out, but sort of getting into nostalgia a little bit here, and yeah, I'm halfway through season 1, rewatching it, and it's pretty good. Other shout-outs, Supergirl came back on the air last week, actually, but we didn't do a show last week, so I wasn't able to talk about it. Really good, pretty good. This week's episode was better than last week because this week sort of got more back into the plot of the show. But yeah, Supergirl, pretty good. Other shout-outs, I think that's about it. I think that's about as much as I can say. Shout out to everyone who took care of me when I was sick because that was not good. That was literally the sickest I've been.
Yes, I will shout out the people who took care of you too when you were sick. Shout out to John's mommy.
Yeah, pretty much. Because you know what? That was the sickest I've been in probably the better part of a decade. Because wow, that was I legitimately could
No,
not.
I'm joking around with you, but like I remember the last time I was really super super sick,
Like it was not fun.
and that was a really really bad weekend. In fact, we're kind of coming up on the 5-year anniversary of that really bad sickness because it was also the weekend of a Super Bowl.
Like I will not recommend getting that sick. I do not recommend that. That was not fun.
John, you want to know why my sickness was really bad? Not only was I super super worst sickness I ever had in my life, I also found out that my girlfriend at the time cheated on me
That sucks.
that same weekend. Yeah, you know that girlfriend I brought up in the Sins Pass review that I ranted about? That's the story.
Was that Carl? That was the Carl story.
No, Carl did not cheat on me. Nothing wrong with that, but
No, I know. Carl was the guy she cheated with, though.
yeah.
Oh, that was the Carl story. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Another reason why that fucking sucked is probably because I was sick that weekend.
Oh man. But and I still am coughing. I apologize if I've been like distracting everyone with my coughing, but yes, I apologize for that, but it's something I really cannot control. But yeah, other than that, that's all we got for this week. So thank you everyone who tuned in. We will see you next week with another issue of Renew Your Vows and another classic story, barring any more unexpected illnesses, I should say. So yeah, other than that,
cheating on you.
yeah, hopefully no one gets cheated on either in that time. But
Being that no comment.
all right, but this is Spider-Man's Tangled Web Show signing off.